Today I'm going to do a valve cover gasket on this 1989 BMW M3 that a friend of mine has been gracious enough to allow me to record doing. These cars are a lot of fun, but the valve cover gaskets are a common problem with the S14 engine. Easy way to tell is when you start the car and start driving it, you'll get a oil smell, you'll get a little bit of smoke from out from under the hood. And here on this car, you can see on the coolant pipe here there's some oil. There's also some oil on the valve cover, on this ground strap. So it's time. Valve covers on these M3s are surprisingly easy, unlike a lot of BMWs that are around now. The only tools you really need are a 10mm and a sharp straight blade screwdriver. These little chrome nuts on these valve covers, fairly boring looking, but they are actually fairly hard to find. I did one of these cars a few years ago and it was missing a couple, and find new ones was extremely difficult. So I'm gonna try real hard not to lose any today. Aftermarket oil cap is really tight. Oh yeah, this gasket was looking pretty good, but this engine's pretty clean inside. Not bad for a, what, 35-year-old car. Alright, now you can see the gasket's definitely wet. It's wet underneath, so it was time. The other thing to check for is that there's not a whole big puddle of oil in these spark plug wells, because these gaskets around the spark plug tubes tend to leak. Fun fact on E30 M3s, if you want to get the spark plugs out, you have to use the special BMW tool that is in the trunk, because if you don't, there is not a tool in the world that is going to get down in those spark plug wells and get onto those plugs. Ugh, nasty. The other thing we're going to do while we're in here is we're going to replace the gasket on this rear cylinder head cover. The cylinder head on S14s and S38s, in fact, are in multiple pieces. The cam carrier is separate from the actual valve train portion of the head, so the seals around that. But this back plate on these S14s are a common leak point, so I'm going to be doing that one as well. Yeah, this gasket wasn't too great either. It wasn't in super hot shape, so it was due for this one. Now that I have this part as far as I need to, see the back cover's off, still have to clean that surface and clean the surfaces up here. But one other thing I noticed while I was in here, this real common problem on E30 M3s is this little fitting right here that runs vacuum to the brake booster. Now, this fitting is a press fit into this intake manifold, so they tend to get loose, which this one is. I will re-epoxy that, but at the same time, this hose clamp is loose. So I will tighten that up so he doesn't have a vacuum leak, and I will tighten this up. That is always something to look out for when working on E30 M3s. If you're trying to track down an idle problem or a performance problem, these love to leak. All my surfaces are now cleaned, so I'm ready to go and put this rear panel gasket on first. The rear gasket does require some gasket maker, as well as a nice shiny new gasket. I'm using Toyota FIPG because I would like it to actually seal. You don't need a lot, just a little skim, is all you need. Little skim on both sides to ensure that it's going to seal. No big blobs, just a nice thin film. We got these backward. There are dowel pins on this. You just have to line them up with the holes. That's now ready. Double check our cleanliness here. Okay. Okay. Now these rear plate gaskets they sell are actually a little bit tall. They sit proud when you're done. So you have to take a razor blade, trim those little guys off. So now they're nice and flush. And we're going to put a little blob of RTV on that, make sure it doesn't leak. We should be good as new. While the valve cover is off, it's also a great time to check your cylinder head, and this thing looks super clean inside. It's also a great time to check your timing chains, check your guides. This thing looks fantastic. There's no chunks missing. And you can see it's a little bit slack, but that's because it's off. There's no oil pressure against the tensioner. But this thing looks really, really good. Should be good for quite a long time. These valve or these spark plug tube gaskets are pretty straightforward. They drop on as a pair and as a pair. They do not get any kind of sealer. And then our main gasket right here. Now it has, one side has these little RTV blobs on it and the other side does not. The side of the RTV blobs goes down because that fills that little seam right here where the back plate is. So those go down. This also does not get any kind of sealer on it. And it goes on there like that. All right, clean the mating surface on here. So this bad boy is ready to go back on. Just like that. Always starts your hardware by hand, because if you don't, and you strip something or cross thread something, you're gonna have a bad time. I would prefer to have a job take a little bit longer and make sure that I don't mess anything up than to do it quickly. Because it saves a heck of a lot more money not having to do stuff over for free. And I am going to start all of these with the impact, but I'm not going to tighten them down all the way. I'm going to do that by hand. These valve covers are not very thick. Do not want to crack it. Oh, almost forgot something important. This back corner gets the ground strap. Always remember your ground straps on your BMWs. Back corner always gets the ground strap. Before I call this job done, I'm going to try to clean off as much of the oil residue from all the areas under the valve cover I can to try to keep it from smoking and smelling oily. Popular way to do this is to just hose it down with brake cleaner. I don't like to do that on older cars because older cars tend to have stuff that's painted, and brake cleaner does bad things to paint if it's not really good quality paint. Like rattle can, take that crap right off. So I am spraying it on the rag and then wiping it. Much better. So, valve cover replace, valve cover gasket replaced, rear engine panel gasket replaced. So valve cover gasket replaced, spark plug gaskets replaced, and cylinder head back cover panel gasket replaced. And I tightened up and sealed that vacuum fitting on the intake manifold. Last thing to do is fire it up and see how it runs. And that's changed the valve cover gasket on E30 M3.